I think that's great. I kind of, you were saying something that really was kind of resonating with me, which basically seems like triggers, right? When you talk
Hmm.
about um being triggered. I think that, and I'm not sure if you've seen this, but maybe you've had a client like this where they've been a high performer, um,
Hmm.
and something happened and they lose interest, motivation to keep, performing at the same level that they were, and they just not feeling it at all. And they're trying to understand why did this subtle change happen. And they can't really understand, and you have to talk to them. But of course, like I said, I'm not a therapist, so I'm like, I don't really know, the questions to ask in that situation. So I'll ask you. You have someone, coming to you, and they basically describe that situation or scenario of, I've been a high performer, for the last 10 years. And I just don't know what's going on with me. Like, I just cannot get up. I can't rise to the occasion to perform at the same level that I was, over the last 10 years. What do I do?
Yeah. Let's just kind of talk about I think it's also important to just make sure that we acknowledge and validate that what that person is experiencing is very real. Because acknowledging and validating people's stories versus ignoring, which is what happens. There's a gaslighting that happens with some of these experiences. And so the first step is just to acknowledge that you are experiencing what you're experiencing and it's true. Um, the other thing is also when you said trigger, what a trigger is it's a stimulus that elicits a reaction. And when you're in the context of mental health or mental illness, you know, it's often something that brings on or worsens the symptoms that you're already experiencing. And it often happens with people who are in abusive workplaces or work environments, or they may be recovering from mental illness or self-harm, addiction, any of these issues. And basically, part of what we want to do with this client is we want to understand and identify and work to prevent the triggers, because that can be something that can help them to kind of navigate the situation in a way. So there's different types of triggers. There's like trauma triggers. So we want to also understand, helping the client understand, is this a trigger that's coming out of feelings based on something that may have happened to you in the past? Maybe, does this individual remind you of someone that was from your past? Um, and in most cases it is. It could also be like external triggers, whether it be like sounds, sights, textures, symptoms. It could be any trigger. So we want to be able to work to understand and be more curious about how to um, how to deal with these triggers that they come up in the workplace. How do we begin to learn to engage in difficult situations with a focus on maintaining this relationship with this particular coworker, whether we want to speak to the person that is triggering us or activating us. We do that in therapy. We try to figure out what are some of our options, um, but we also want to be able to set some boundaries around, because we want to make sure that with boundaries, we want to make sure that we're clear and we know what the expectations are, which adds a sense of like security and stability. But we also want to figure out some other strategies and ways to like cope that might work for this person in terms of coping with their triggers and helping them to relax. What are they doing to take care of themselves? Are there any self-care strategies that they're using? Um, but also like, okay, what is your safety plan? So that you're not being triggered and re-triggered, because um, having some type of understanding of like how to exit, how to remove yourself, how to detach. So you can know exactly what is going to happen in the event that you are triggered again. So, but yeah, it really is about understanding, identifying, and responding and reacting to the trigger in a way that is healthy versus unhealthy. There's so much that is going on that is not being said
Mhm.
between the interaction between an employee and their company. There's so much happening.
Yeah.
This is why therapy exists, to help people to kind of slow down and kind of speak about what is actually going on so that we can figure out a solution to move forward.
Wow. So I mean, it's funny because you're enlightening me because just listening to things you say, I can think of, situations or scenarios in the workplace where I'm like, oh wow. And I give you one. When people don't like someone, never spoke to them, never really
Mhm.
came across them, just seen them. Just seen, I don't like them.
Mhm.
And you're like,
Mhm.
why? They haven't done anything to you. They haven't said anything to you. I just
Right.
it's just something about them I don't like. But you don't know them. And now thinking about that, something about their looks could be triggering. And they
Mhm.
just don't know it, but they're projecting that on that person, and that person has not done anything to them at all, but showed
Right.
up. Um, so wow, okay.
And that person could possibly be a trigger of a memory of a person that reminded them of someone, or someone from outside of the workplace. It could be their personality, it could be their attitude, it could be just the way that that other person is presenting themselves. It could be anything, you know. But I think it's important for us to understand, okay, what is that about? Like, being curious, understanding, like, who or what was involved, where, when, why, like, what is it about this person that is triggering you to the point where it's causing you to be angry or be frustrated or be resentful, or what is really going on within you, versus looking at that other person and figuring out what's going on with them. Think about what's going on within you so
Mhm.
that you can figure out how to address whatever is coming up for you.
Yeah, having that awareness. Okay, I don't like this person, and I don't even know them. Why?
Right,
Goes back to that why
right.
question, right? Um,
Yeah, why? But doing it so much with no judgment, right? Like, we're not
right.
going to judge what's coming up. We're just going to be more observant. Like, what is it about? Why is it about this person? And do I need to set some limits and boundaries to
Hmm.
protect myself, right? When this person comes up, like, how much time or how much energy am I giving to this person? You know, or am I limiting my engagement and my interaction with this
Right.
individual?
And
Right,
that could be, someone, a supervisor, right?
right,
Someone that kind of has an impact on someone lower than them, having that
right,
same feeling and emotion and
right,
hindering them to getting to the next level. And it's absolutely nothing about their work,
right.
their personality, none of that. It's solely they don't like them because of something, but they can't put their finger, quote unquote, on it. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, yeah, man, that's awesome. You know what, man? We might have to make this kind of a series, a reoccurring thing.
Sure.
Where we kind of talk and dig deep into it. Because I like this conversation and I think people need to hear it.